All right, so,
What was the book you were reading?
the book I was reading is called Chocolate to Morphine, and it basically just describes addiction on all levels, as chocolate is addictive because it has a little bit of caffeine in it, which is an addictive substance, and it goes all the way to morphine. And I forgot a thank you slide because I'm a schmuck. So first, I'd like to thank the deans, Betsy and Turner, who let us stay at their house. And I'd also like to thank Sarah and everyone at Pinhead. They work their tails off every day of the year, and this is the one day where everyone can come together and say thank you for everything that they've done for the youth of our community, and thank you so much. And I'd also like to thank Ella for keeping me company while I was in San Diego, because I probably would have gotten really bored if she wasn't there. All right, so I was at the Scripps Institute in the George Lab of the Neurobiology of Addiction, and this is the building we were in right there, and this is most people that were ever in this courtyard area. Like, nobody ate outside, everybody ate at their desk, and it was kind of depressing. But it was beautiful, and it was sunny, and it was amazing. And we, so this is the Torrey Pines area, that's the... There is? Yeah. Oh, it's not working. All right, well, that's the Torrey Pines Golf Course. That is the ocean. That's how lucky we were. We were half a mile from the ocean, and this is really pixelated, but our lab is right there. So we were really close to the ocean and got to surf a lot. So the thing that they drilled into our heads the most was the importance of researching addiction. And it costs our economy and our government a lot of money because we have to put people into rehab centers, or we put them in prison because they have possession of an illegal substance, or they OD or something. So it costs like $500 billion. Is that $500 billion? That's $500 billion. It costs $500 billion every year to the United States government. I need my math person. To our government, just for costs for housing people who are addicted and getting them rehab. But for every dollar that is spent on research addiction, the research of addiction, we save $12 in healthcare and the judicial systems. And we mostly focused on electronic cigarettes. That's the experiments we were taking part in the most. And the reason for that is the size of the market for electronic cigarettes has multiplied by 8 times in the last 6 years. And there's very minimal research as to the actual effects of nicotine addiction with electronic cigarettes. So what we did initially was read a lot of papers, and we transported the rats and put them in their administration boxes, and in those boxes they had a lever that they could press to give themselves nicotine. They also had access to water and food. And there was one group that was in there for 23 hours a day, and then they had an hour off, and the other group was in there for 1 hour a day with 23 hours off. And that's to replicate people who are highly addicted to nicotine and people who just use it moderately. And then the cooler things we did was we made artificial cerebrospinal fluid, which we used to preserve the brains of the animals when they died, so that we could research which neurons were affected in the brain, especially in the central amygdala, to see how the addiction actually affected their brains and what part of their brain made them want more nicotine. We also made catheters that were implanted into the backs of the rats, and the catheter was threaded into their jugular vein, and that's how they would be administered the nicotine. And we got to assist in the surgeries where we actually put the catheters into the rats. The experiments we participated on, these two up here, were to test anxiety. One's the cross maze and one's the open field test. And when the rats are in withdrawal from a drug, they're generally anxious, so they'll go either into the walled arms of the plus maze, or they'll go close to the walls of the open field test. and there's a camera over the open field test in both of them to see how many times they would go either to the wall or to the center, and from that we could measure how anxious they were and how bad their withdrawal was. And on the far side, that is Ella, where she's observing a rat that is in withdrawal, and it's in a cylinder, and you just watch it for little things that it does, like their paws will shake, or they'll chatter their teeth, or they'll start grooming themselves excessively, and that shows that they're kind of experiencing like a little bit of pain just because of the withdrawal and not having the nicotine. And they poop a lot too when they're in withdrawal, and it's disgusting. The one on the bottom over there is the von Frey test, and they've shown that humans and rats, when they are on nicotine or other drugs, they become more sensitive. The actual touch of when they feel things actually becomes more sensitive. So you can measure that to see if they are in withdrawal or addicted to the nicotine, because they will be more sensitive to fibers poking them, and they'll just pick their foot up. And these are our mentors. The one closest to me is Marcita. In the middle is Giordano. They're married, and they're from Italy, and somehow they ended up in San Diego. But they are the most enthusiastic people I've ever met, and they're pretty crazy. And on the far side is Molly, and she wasn't there for the first half of our internship, but when she came back, she took us under her wing, and she taught us how the lab was actually run instead of how the experiments were analyzed and how they were performed. And not pictured here is the actual investigator of the lab, Olivier. He was kind of elusive, so we never really got a picture of him. He was always at conferences or really busy. And this was our lab. It is extremely messy. And that's all I have. Thank you so much.